As silent watchers, the stars held their secrets well. But Captain Sarah-chun had learned to read between the lines of cosmic silence. Standing on the bridge of the research vessel Prometheus, she watched the tactical display with growing unease. 3 human colonies had gone dark in the past month. Not destroyed, not evacuated, simply silent. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from New Geneva Colony," reported Lieutenant Rodriguez from the communications station. His voice carried a tension that made Sarah's stomach tighten. It's not from the colonists." Sarah moved to his station, her boots clicking against the metal deck plating. The Prometheus wasn't a warship. It was designed for deep space exploration and scientific research. But in times like these, even science vessels found themselves on the front lines of history. "Put it through." The main screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. Sarah had seen the species before in diplomatic briefings Vaxery. Their elongated skulls and metallic implants around their eyes gave them an appearance of cold intelligence. This particular Vaxery wore ceremonial armor that gleamed with embedded technology. Primitive humans of the vessel Prometheus. Alien spoke in perfect English, though his translator gave his words a mechanical edge. "I am High Commander Zethkar of the Vaxery Empire. You will adjust your course immediately and withdraw from this system. This space now belongs to the Empire." Sarah stepped forward, her jaw set in determination. She was young for a ship's captain at 32, but her dark eyes held the kind of resolve that came from growing up in the asteroid mining colonies. She knew what it meant to fight for survival in the void. "This is Captain Sarah-chun of the United Earth Research Command. New Geneva is a human colony with 8,000 civilians. What have you done with them?" High Commander Zethkar's expression showed what might have been amusement on a human face. "Your species always asks the wrong questions. The correct question is, what can you do about it?" He gestured with one of his 4 arms. "Your pathetic little ship carries no weapons capable of threatening Empire vessels. Your entire species possesses no technology that we have not already surpassed 1,000 years ago. The humans of New Geneva now serve the Empire in labor camps. They are fortunate we found them useful." The words hit Sarah like physical blows, but she kept her expression steady. Years of military training had taught her to control her reactions, even when her heart was breaking. 8,000 people, families, children, scientists who had dedicated their lives to pushing humanity's boundaries among the stars, now reduced to slave labor for an empire that saw them as less than intelligent animals. "You're making a mistake," Sarah said quietly. "Humanity doesn't respond well to threats." "Threats?" Zethkar's translator seemed to struggle with what sounded like laughter. "Child, this is not a threat. This is notification. The Vaxery Empire has cataloged your species as level 2 primitive. You have barely achieved faster-than-light travel. Your weapons are chemical explosives and basic energy projection. Your ships are crude metal constructs, held together by hope and desperation." He leaned forward, his metallic eye implants gleaming. 3 of your colonies have already been integrated into Empire territory. 17 more will follow within. The next solar cycle, your Earth government may surrender peacefully and accept protectorate status, or they may resist and face complete annexation. The outcome is identical. Sarah felt her crew's tension radiating across the bridge. Rodriguez's hands were clenched so tightly his knuckles had gone white. At the helm, Ensign Park stared at the screen with barely controlled rage. These were good people, scientists and explorers, who had signed up to push the boundaries of human knowledge, not to witness the enslavement of their fellow humans. "We need time to contact Earth Command," Sarah said. "Surely the Empire can allow." "Use that courtesy." "Time?" Zethkar made that same sound that might have been laughter. "Very well. You have 72 of your hours." Not because the Empire fears your response, but because we are curious to see how primitives react to inevitable conquest. Perhaps your surrender will provide entertainment. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in heavy silence. Sarah stared at the blank screen for a long moment, her mind racing through possibilities and calculations. Finally, she turned to her crew. Rodriguez, open a coded channel to Earth Command. Priority Alpha 7. She paused, knowing that the next words would change everything. Tell them it's time for Aurora Protocol. The communications officer's eyes widened. Aurora Protocol was a designation that existed in classified files, whispered about in military academies, but never officially acknowledged. It was the contingency that Earth Command hoped would never be necessary, and the reason why ships like the Prometheus carried certain modifications that weren't listed in their technical specifications. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Marcus. Webb, her first officer, spoke quietly. Aurora Protocol hasn't been activated in over 50 years. Are you certain? Sarah looked at the tactical display, showing the positions of the Vaxery, Fleet 6 massive dreadnoughts, and at least 20 support vessels, all positioned around New Geneva, like predators around wounded prey. The Empire's technology was clearly superior in many ways. Their ships were larger, their weapons more advanced, their armor stronger, but the Vaxery had made one critical error. They believed their own intelligence reports. Marcus, how long have humans been in space? Sarah asked. Officially? About 150 years since the first Mars colonies. Officially, Sarah repeated. And unofficially? Webb's expression grew thoughtful. Like all senior officers in Earth Command, he had access to certain classified historical files. The Aurora logs suggest we've been preparing for interstellar conflict for over 200 years. Since before we even achieved reliable fusion power. Sarah nodded. The Vaxery aren't wrong about our technology level. What they're wrong about is our capacity for preparation. She moved to the captain's chair, her hands resting on armrests that contained concealed biometric scanners. They see primitive humans struggling to master basic space travel. They don't see the species that survived ice ages, world wars, and ecological collapse through sheer stubborn determination. On the main screen, the positions of the Vaxery fleet updated as the ship's sensors continued their passive scans. The alien vessels moved in precise formation, confident in their superiority. They had no reason to expect resistance from a research ship carrying primitive humans. Captain, Ensign Park called from the helm. I'm detecting some unusual readings. From the asteroid fields in this system. Energy signatures that don't match any known natural phenomena. Sarah felt a grim smile touch her lips. Rodriguez, has Earth Command responded to our Aurora transmission? Yes, Captain. Single word reply. Acknowledged. Across human space, Sarah knew similar transmissions were being sent and received. On Earth, in the Mars colonies, at the Jupiter, mining stations, throughout the asteroid belt research facilities, everywhere humans had established a presence among the stars. The Aurora Protocol was more than just a military contingency. It was humanity's insurance policy against extinction. The Vaxery Empire believed they were dealing with primitives who had stumbled into space through luck and crude determination. They saw chemical rockets and basic fusion drives. They cataloged human weapons as simple kinetic projectiles and low-yield energy beams. Their intelligence reports described humans as barely united, prone to internal conflict, lacking the technological sophistication to pose any real threat to a galactic empire. Asterisk, every single assessment was both completely accurate and utterly wrong. Captain, Webb said quietly, the crew deserves to know what we're really dealing with. What Aurora Protocol actually means. Sarah looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew, young scientists and explorers who had believed they were part of humanity's peaceful expansion into the cosmos. They deserved to know the truth about the species they belonged to, and the lengths to which human civilization would go to protect itself. 200 years ago, when we first detected radio signals from other star systems, Earth's governments faced a terrible possibility, she began. What if the galaxy was hostile? What if humanity's expansion into space brought us into contact with species that viewed us as inferior, as resources to be exploited or obstacles to be eliminated? She gestured to the view screen, showing the Vaxari fleet. So they developed a strategy. Publicly, humanity would appear to be exactly what species like the Vaxari expect: primitive, disorganized, technologically inferior. We would expand slowly, cautiously, always appearing to struggle with basic challenges of space travel and colonization. Rodriguez leaned forward. But privately? Privately, we prepared for war. Sarah's voice carried the weight of classified knowledge that few humans were privileged to know. Every human colony, every research station, every asteroid mining facility was built with dual purpose. The scientists and civilians living there were real, their work genuine. But hidden beneath their laboratories and living quarters, humanity built something else. The tactical display chimed softly, showing new contacts appearing at the edge of the system. Ships emerging from asteroid fields where no ships should have been able to hide. Vessels rising from what the sensors had registered as dead rocks, floating in space. The Aurora Protocol, Sarah continued, is the activation of humanity's true space presence. The hidden fleet, the concealed weapons platforms, the defensive networks we've been building for 2 centuries, while pretending to be primitive newcomers to the galaxy. On the screen, the new contacts resolved into clear images. Sleek vessels that moved with purpose and precision, their hulls designed for stealth rather than intimidation. Unlike the massive, ornate Vaxari dreadnoughts, these ships looked functional and deadly. They emerged from concealment like predators emerging from tall grass. How many? Webb asked in wonder. Enough, Sarah replied. The Vaxari cataloged human space based on our visible colonies and official fleet registry. They counted our research vessels and cargo haulers, our announced military ships, and known defensive platforms. She paused, watching as more hidden vessels appeared on the tactical display. They never suspected that humanity learned the first rule of survival in space: never show your true strength until you're ready to use it. The hidden fleet continued to emerge from concealment. Ships that had waited in the darkness between stars, stations built inside asteroids and disguised as natural formations. Weapons platforms that had masqueraded as communication relays and scientific instruments. For 2 centuries, while humanity had appeared to stumble through its expansion into space, they had actually been preparing for exactly this moment. Orders, Captain? Webb asked. Sarah looked at the display, showing the Vaxari fleet still positioned confidently around New Geneva, unaware that their prey had suddenly become the hunters. High Commander Zethkar had given humanity 72 hours to surrender. He was about to learn why that had been a mistake. Signal the fleet, she said. Aurora Protocol is active. Operation parameters. Demonstrate to the Vaxari Empire why. Underestimating humanity is never a good idea. Asterisk. The storm awakens. The next 12 hours passed intense preparation. Across the bridge of the Prometheus, Sarah's crew worked with the focused intensity of people who knew their actions would determine the fate of their species. The research vessel had transformed from a peaceful exploration ship into something else entirely, a command and control node for operations that had been planned decades before any of them were born. Captain, we're receiving tactical updates. From Aurora Command, Rodriguez reported. Human fleets are moving into position across 17 systems. The Vaxari have forces spread across a much wider area than they initially indicated. Sarah studied the strategic display that had replaced the ship's normal scientific readouts. The galaxy looked different when viewed through military sensors. What had appeared to be empty space was now revealed to contain human installations, hidden supply depots, and concealed fleet positions that extended far beyond anything the Vaxxeri had detected. Their intelligence was good, but not complete, she observed. They identified our official colonies and registered vessels, but they missed the shadow infrastructure. Lieutenant Commander Webb moved to stand beside her, his expression grim. "Captain, I'm looking at these fleet positions. This isn't just a defensive response. Aurora Protocol includes offensive capabilities that go far beyond protecting human space." Sarah nodded. The planners understood something that the Vaxxeri don't. When a technologically superior enemy decides to enslave or eliminate your species, there's no such thing as a purely defensive war. Either humanity survives and expands, or humanity becomes extinct. There's no middle ground. On the main screen, the tactical situation around New Geneva continued to evolve. The Vaxxeri fleet maintained its confident positioning, with their massive dreadnoughts forming a defensive perimeter around the captured colony. Their sensors had detected some of the emerging human vessels, but their response suggested they viewed the new arrivals as insignificant. High Commander Zethkar Z. Voice crackled across the communication channel that had remained open since their first encounter. "Primitive humans, we detect additional vessels entering this system. Do not mistake reinforcement for capability. Your crewed ships cannot threaten Empire technology." Sarah activated the response channel, her voice calm and professional. "Hi. Commander, I want to thank you for giving us 72 hours. It's proving to be exactly the time we needed." "For what purpose, Primitive?" "To remember who we really are." Sarah cut the channel and turned to her crew. What she was about to order would irrevocably change humanity's relationship with the galaxy. For 2 centuries, their species had hidden its true nature behind carefully constructed facades of primitive struggle and technological limitation. Once the mask came off, there would be no putting it back on. "All stations, prepare for Aurora revelation," she commanded. Across her bridge, concealed panels slid open to reveal advanced control systems that had been built into the ship's superstructure. The Prometheus had always been more than a research vessel. It had been designed as a mobile command platform capable of coordinating fleet operations across multiple star systems. But until this moment, only Sarah and a handful of senior officers had known about its true capabilities. "Neural interface coming online," reported Chief Petty Officer Lisa Chun from what had appeared to be a standard navigation console. The young woman's hands moved across controls that materialized from hidden compartments, her fingers dancing over holographic displays that shifted and flowed like liquid light. "All fleet elements reporting ready status." Sarah felt her pulse quicken as she recognized what was happening. The Aurora Protocol wasn't just about revealing hidden ships and weapons platforms. It was about demonstrating the true extent of human technological development capabilities that had been deliberately concealed behind facades of primitive engineering. "Establish neural link with Aurora Command," Sarah ordered. A helmet-like device descended from the ceiling above her command chair. Unlike the crude mechanical interfaces that humanity showed to the galaxy, this was technology that represented centuries of secret development. As the neural crown made contact, Sarah felt her consciousness expand beyond the boundaries of her individual mind. Suddenly, she wasn't just Captain Sarah Chun, commanding a single research vessel. She was connected to a vast network of human commanders, AI systems, and strategic coordination centers spread across dozens of star systems. The Aurora Protocol wasn't just activating hidden fleets. It was revealing that humanity had developed collective intelligence capabilities that made their individual technological limitations irrelevant. Through the neural network, Sarah could perceive the entire strategic situation simultaneously. The Vaxari Empire had committed substantial forces to their expansion into human space, but they had based their deployments on incomplete intelligence. They expected to face scattered resistance from primitive colonists armed with crude weapons. Instead, they were about to encounter a coordinated response from a species that had spent 2 centuries preparing for exactly this scenario. Fleet. Status report, Sarah said, her voice now carrying the authority of the collective human command structure. Aurora Fleet Designation Alpha reports ready, came the response through the neural link. 47 stealth vessels in position around. Vaxari formations. Beta Fleet signals ready 31 heavy assault platforms emerging from asteroid concealment. Gamma Fleet reports full operational status 19 strategic reconnaissance vessels providing targeting data. Sarah felt a grim satisfaction as she processed the information. The Vaxari had cataloged human space based on what they could. Sea research stations, civilian colonies, small defense platforms. They had never suspected that beneath every visible human presence lay concealed military infrastructure. Initiate Aurora Revelation sequence, she commanded. Across the New Geneva system, human vessels that had appeared to be simple cargo haulers and research ships began their transformation. External hull plating shifted and retracted, revealing weapons systems that had been concealed within civilian superstructures. What the Vaxari had dismissed as primitive human engineering revealed itself to be sophisticated camouflage technology. The Prometheus itself was undergoing the same transformation. External sensor arrays reconfigured themselves into targeting systems. The ship's humble fusion drive revealed itself to be a sophisticated propulsion system capable of performance that matched or exceeded Vaxari technology. Hidden weapon ports opened along the vessel's hull, revealing armaments that had been built into the ship's structure during construction. High Commander Zethkar is attempting to communicate, Rodriguez reported. Put him through, Sarah said. She wanted the Vaxari commander to understand exactly what was happening. The alien's face appeared on the main screen, and for the first time, his expression showed something other than arrogant confidence. His metallic eye implants were flashing rapidly, which Sarah recognized as a sign of stress in his species. What? Are you? He demanded. We're exactly what we've always been, Sarah replied calmly. Human. The difference is that now you're seeing us as we really are, instead of the version we wanted you to see. On the tactical display, the true scope of human preparation became visible. The asteroid fields around New Geneva weren't just natural formations, they were concealed military installations. The communication relays and scientific satellites that had appeared to be standard civilian infrastructure revealed themselves as sophisticated sensor and weapons platforms. Your intelligence was correct about our official capabilities, Sarah continued. Chemical rockets, basic fusion drives, primitive weapon systems. All of that was real. What your intelligence missed was our capacity for preparation and misdirection. Through the neural link, Sarah could sense the Vaxari fleet's growing confusion and alarm. Their sensors were detecting energy signatures and technological capabilities that didn't match their intelligence reports. Ships they had dismissed as harmless were revealing weapon systems that represented centuries of secret development. You cataloged humanity as level 2 primitive, Sarah said. That assessment was based on what we wanted you to see. Our actual capabilities are somewhat different. The first demonstration came from Aurora Fleet Beta. What had appeared to be a simple asteroid mining station revealed itself as a massive weapons platform. Weapons that had been disguised as mining equipment rotated into firing position. There, targeting systems locking onto the nearest Vaxari. Dreadnought. The energy beam that lanced out was unlike anything in the Empire's catalog of human technology. Instead of the crude plasma weapons they expected, this was a focused gravitational distortion field that struck the alien vessel's shields and simply passed through them as if they didn't exist. The beam penetrated the dreadnought's hull and systematically dismantled its internal structure at the molecular level. "Impossible," Zethkar whispered. "Your species lacks the theoretical knowledge for gravitational manipulation." "We've had 200 years to study physics," Sarah replied. "Turns out we're quick learners when properly motivated." The Vaxari commander's confusion was understandable. His species had encountered dozens of primitive civilizations throughout their expansion across the galaxy. In every case, technological development followed predictable patterns. Species that had achieved basic spaceflight possessed certain capabilities and lacked others. The idea that a primitive species might deliberately conceal advanced technology while maintaining the appearance of limited development was outside their experience. "Aurora Fleet Alpha, initiate tactical demonstration," Sarah commanded through. The neural link dot around the new Geneva system, 47 vessels that had been dismissed as harmless research ships, revealed their true nature. Instead of engaging the Vaxari fleet directly, they began a coordinated series of maneuvers that demonstrated capabilities no primitive species should possess. The ships moved in perfect synchronization, their paths calculated to exploit weaknesses in Vaxari formation that the Empire's commanders didn't even know existed. This wasn't the desperate flailing of an inferior enemy. It was the precise application of superior strategic understanding. "Your fleet movements are being predicted and countered before you complete them," Sarah explained to the increasingly desperate alien commander. "We've been studying galactic military tactics for centuries. We know how every major species fights, what their tactical doctrines emphasize, where their strategic thinking is strong, and where it's vulnerable." Through the neural link, Sarah could sense her fellow human commanders across the galaxy implementing similar revelations. The Vaxari Empire wasn't just facing unexpected resistance in one system. They were discovering that their intelligence about humanity was fundamentally flawed across their entire expansion front. "This is a temporary advantage," Zethkar said, though his voice carried less certainty than before. "The Empire will adapt. Our technology remains superior." "Your technology is superior," Sarah agreed. "Individual Vaxari ships are more powerful than individual human vessels. Your weapons are more advanced, your defensive systems stronger. But you made a critical error in your assessment of our species." She gestured to the tactical display, showing the coordinated movements of the human fleet. "You evaluated us as individuals. You never considered what humans can accomplish when we work together." The neural link carried more than just tactical information. It represented the collective intelligence and creativity of humanity applied to the problem of galactic warfare. Every human commander contributed their knowledge and experience to the shared network. Every tactical innovation was immediately available to every other human unit. "The Empire conquers species by achieving technological superiority over individual enemies," Sarah continued. "But humanity doesn't fight as individuals. We fight as a collective intelligence that learns and adapts faster than any individual. Species can counter." As if to demonstrate her point, Aurora Fleet Gamma initiated a coordinated assault on the Vaxari formation that utilized tactics no single commander could have developed. 19 human vessels executed a complex series of maneuvers that forced the alien fleet into a defensive configuration that left them vulnerable to attacks from concealed weapons platforms. The battle that followed wasn't the desperate struggle of primitives against superior technology. It was the methodical dismantling of an enemy force by opponents who had spent centuries preparing for exactly this encounter. Every Vaxari tactic was anticipated and countered. Every technological advantage was neutralized by superior coordination and strategic thinking. "Surrender is possible," Sarah offered as the alien fleet situation became hopeless. "Return the human colonists you've taken. Withdraw from human space. Acknowledge that humanity is not a primitive species to be enslaved or eliminated. On the screen, High Commander Zethkar stared at the tactical display showing his fleet's desperate situation. The arrogance that had characterized his earlier communications was gone, replaced by the recognition that he was facing an enemy he had completely misunderstood. "What are you really?" he asked again. Sarah smiled grimly. "We're the species that survived ice ages by working together. The civilization that ended global conflicts by learning to cooperate on a planetary scale. The people who turned a small, unremarkable world into the launching point for expansion across the galaxy." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We're humanity. And we've been waiting for someone like you to help us show the galaxy who we really are." The transformation was complete. Across human space, the Aurora Protocol had revealed the true extent of human preparation and capability. The primitive species that had appeared to struggle with basic space travel was revealed as a collective intelligence that had spent 2 centuries preparing for galactic conflict. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. The question now was whether they would choose cooperation or continued conflict with a species that had just demonstrated why. Underestimating human determination was the last mistake an enemy would ever make. "Your orders, High Commander?" Sarah asked. The future of galactic civilization hung in the balance, waiting for his answer.